This is the story of Arkia Berry. On July 13th, 2024, Birmingham police responded to a reported vehicle crash near Avenue V and 3rd Street Southwest. Upon arrival, officers found a car with multiple bullet holes and 3 occupants deceased inside. The victims were identified as 28-year-old Arkia Berry, her 5-year-old son, Landon Brooks, and her boyfriend, Eric Ashley Jr. Evidence at the scene included over 20 shell casings and shattered glass, indicating multiple shots fired from outside the vehicle. All 3 victims sustained fatal gunshot wounds. No firearm was recovered at the scene. Initial examination confirmed Arkia was driving, Eric was in the passenger seat, and Landon was in the rear seat. During evidence processing, investigators discovered that Arkia had sent a final text message before her death containing the single name Jaco. Analysis of digital records linked the name to Jaco McGregor, a known individual in the Birmingham area. Cell phone data, message history, and location tracking placed McGregor near the scene at the time of the shooting. Surveillance footage later showed a green Kia vehicle in the area shortly before the shooting. The same model vehicle was found burned the following day. Investigators connected the vehicle to an associate of McGregor. Following the identification of McGregor as a suspect, a warrant was issued for his arrest. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how do you feel as the story unfolds? Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now, let's dive in.
Friends gathering for a vigil tonight after a 5-year-old little boy was among 3 people shot and killed in Echo Highlands Park over the weekend.
Violence. When I say stop, you say violence. Stop the violence. Stop the violence.
5-year-old Landon Brooks, his mom, 29-year-old Arkia Berry, and Eric Ashley Jr. were sitting in a car on Indian Summer Drive when someone opened fire on them. At a vigil tonight in Wahoma Park, where Landon played youth football, his coaches were understandably emotional.
So, we most definitely need answers. You know, you didn't only take him, you took his mama. You know, like I said, me and Coach, we have him every day. Every day. Every day he asks us how he doing, and deep down inside we know he ain't doing good. Because once again, I told you, he already didn't have his dad. You know, so like a lot of kids come out here, this they comfort zone. This they time to like express themselves. You know, some kids don't know how to express themselves to their parents. And we have to step up and be there for them. We have to answer questions that they don't know how to answer.
Knowing that he sit high and he knows everything, so that helps me to carry through.
5-year-old Landon Brooks was shot and killed nearly 2 weeks ago. He was sitting in a car in the Echo Highlands Park neighborhood with his mother, Arkia Brooks, and her boyfriend, Eric Ashley. All 3 died, and no one has been arrested.
I will ask God to have mercy on both of them and for them to ask for forgiveness and, you know, turn themselves in with a lot of unanswered questions. And I only can just stand in faith, praying and hoping that God bring justice to both of their cases.
Arkia Berry, known to many as Kia, was 28 years old at the time of her death. She lived in Birmingham, Alabama, a city she had called home for most of her life. Public records list her residence in a modest neighborhood not far from downtown Birmingham. Arkia's educational background and employment history placed her in the working-class sector of the community, where she was described by acquaintances as reliable and consistent in her routine. Her most defining role, however, was as a mother to her 5-year-old son, Landon Brooks, whom she raised with dedication and focus. Those who knew her referred to her as a devoted parent, often seen taking Landon to daycare, parks, and family events. Family members consistently described her as protective, attentive, and deeply committed to ensuring her son's safety and well-being. Within the family unit, Arkia maintained strong ties, frequently communicating with relatives and involving herself in family gatherings and celebrations. Arkia was also in a relationship with Eric Ashley Jr., a man in his late 20s. Their connection had been ongoing for some time, and they were known to spend significant periods together, including outings and joint appearances at family events. Friends and relatives recognized their relationship as steady but private, with little public conflict reported. The pair were frequently seen driving together, often with Landon in the back seat. Their shared activities, according to acquaintances, included errands, social visits, and regular travel around the Birmingham area. In terms of daily routine, Arkia maintained a structured schedule. She typically left home early in the day for work-related duties and returned in the evenings. Her travel patterns were predictable, primarily confined to routes within her neighborhood and nearby business districts. She occasionally stopped by relatives' homes after work and was known to communicate consistently through text messages and social media. Her digital footprint reflected a young mother focused on her family, showing no public signs of dispute or distress in the days leading up to the incident. The victims in the case were three individuals: Arkia Berry, her son Landon Brooks, and her boyfriend, Eric Ashley Jr. On the day of the event, Arkia was driving. Eric occupied the front passenger seat, and Landon was seated in the back. Their movements before the fatal encounter appeared normal and routine. They had left their residence in Birmingham earlier in the day, following a route familiar to Arkia. Surveillance and communication data later confirmed that all three were together for several hours before their deaths, with no indication of a deviation from their usual pattern. The trio's final known moments placed them inside Arkia's vehicle as it traveled through Birmingham's southwest area. The exact purpose of their trip remains unconfirmed, but no evidence suggests prior awareness of imminent danger. Investigators later determined that their movements on the day of the incident aligned with their regular activities, indicating no planned confrontation or unusual deviation from their established routine. In the days leading up to July 13, 2024, investigators determined that there had been ongoing communication between Arkia Berry, age 28, and Jaco McGregor, the man later identified as the main suspect in her death. Records extracted from Arkia's phone show a sequence of text messages and phone calls exchanged between the two. Authorities confirmed that some of these communications took place within 72 hours before the murders. The content of these messages has not been publicly disclosed in full, but detectives described them as personal in nature. Investigators are analyzing whether those exchanges indicate any form of dispute, confrontation, or unresolved tension between the two. Law enforcement sources confirmed that McGregor was known within certain circles in Birmingham and had prior connections to people associated with Arkia. Several people close to Arkia stated that she had been preoccupied and quiet in the days before the shooting. Some noted that she seemed to be communicating with someone via phone more than usual. Friends of her boyfriend, Eric Ashley Jr., also told investigators that Eric and Arkia had briefly argued earlier that week about a personal matter, though there's no indication it was directly related to McGregor. No financial disputes or business conflicts involving Arkia have been documented, but police records show that McGregor was known to engage in informal dealings involving cars and personal items. Detectives consider the possibility of a personal fallout over money or loyalty, but have not confirmed this as the motive. Witnesses in the neighborhood where Arkia lived stated they saw her car parked outside her residence on July 12th and observed her leaving with Eric and her son, Landon Brooks, several times that week. A neighbor recalled seeing the silver sedan return late in the evening of July 12th. The following morning, that same vehicle was seen departing around midday on July 13th, the day the incident occurred. The morning of July 13th, 2024, began routinely for Arkia and her family. According to digital records, Arkia used her phone shortly before noon to respond to a message from a family member. Her device's location placed her near her home in Birmingham. Around 1 p.m., she was seen on security footage leaving her residence with her son Landon and her boyfriend Eric. The vehicle used that day was a silver sedan, believed to be her personal car. The make and model matched a Chevrolet Malibu, as confirmed by investigators. Eric occupied the front passenger seat and Landon was seated in the back. Between 2:30 p.m. and 3 p.m., phone tower data show Arkia's phone moving along a route consistent with the western part of Birmingham. Investigators believe she was possibly traveling to meet or communicate with someone in that area. Witnesses later told police they saw a similar silver sedan parked along Avenue V and 3rd Street Southwest, not far from the eventual crime scene. Text message records indicate that at 3:42 p.m., Arkia sent or received a message believed to be directed to McGregor's phone number. The message was brief and did not contain any visible distress. Between 4 p.m. and 4:30 p.m., her phone activity decreased. Around 5 p.m., her device's GPS location stopped transmitting, likely indicating the phone was damaged or turned off. Witness accounts gathered later confirmed the presence of another vehicle near the location around that same time. Multiple individuals reported seeing a green Kia trailing behind or parked nearby the silver sedan. The vehicle was later determined to be significant in the investigation. No confirmed video footage has been publicly released showing McGregor or the victims together that day. However, surveillance from a gas station approximately 2 miles away captured a silver vehicle resembling Arkia's and a green Kia traveling minutes apart on the same roadway. Investigators are analyzing the footage to determine whether both vehicles were in proximity prior to the shooting. Residents in the Avenue V and 3rd Street Southwest area reported hearing a rapid succession of gunshots during the late afternoon to early evening hours, estimated between 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. Some described the sound as continuous, indicating the use of a semi-automatic firearm. One resident called 911 immediately after hearing the shots, reporting what they initially believed was a car crash due to the loud impact and abrupt silence that followed. Multiple 911 calls were received within a short span, prompting a dispatch of patrol units to the scene. The first responding officers arrived at approximately 6:08 p.m. and found a silver vehicle stopped on the side of the road, with its engine off. The front windshield and driver's side windows were shattered. The vehicle appeared to have sustained multiple bullet impacts across the front and driver's side. Upon inspection, officers discovered 3 occupants inside. The driver, later identified as Arkia Berry, was found unresponsive with visible gunshot wounds to her upper torso. In the front passenger seat, Eric Ashley Jr. was also deceased from gunshot injuries. In the back seat, 5-year-old Landon Brooks was located with fatal wounds consistent with gunfire. Officers confirmed that all 3 victims were deceased at the scene. The area was immediately cordoned off, and homicide detectives were notified. Responding officers initially treated the call as a traffic collision, but the extensive damage from gunfire shifted the classification to a homicide scene. Paramedics confirmed there were no signs of life in any of the victims. The positioning of the victims suggested that the driver and front passenger were struck first. Arkia was still restrained by her seatbelt. Eric appeared to have turned toward the driver, possibly in reaction to the shooting. Landon remained in his booster seat. The car's engine was off, and the keys were found in the ignition. Shattered glass covered the dashboard and front seats. The immediate surroundings showed no signs of another vehicle remaining on scene. Investigators recovered between 20 and 30 spent shell casings at and around the vehicle. The casings were primarily concentrated along the driver's side of the car, indicating that the shooter fired from outside the vehicle at close to mid-range distance. Preliminary ballistic analysis suggested the rounds came from a 9mm semi-automatic firearm. The spread pattern and depth of penetration were consistent with shots fired in rapid succession. No shell casings were found inside the car, reinforcing that the shooter remained outside during the attack. Detectives canvassed the surrounding area and collected footage from nearby homes and businesses. A residential camera several houses away captured the sound of gunfire, followed by the image of a dark green vehicle leaving the scene at high speed. This footage later became a crucial element in identifying the suspect's movements. Identification of the victims was completed at the scene through personal identification cards found inside the vehicle. Arkia Berry's driver's license was located in her purse, and Eric Ashley Jr. was identified through documents in his pocket. The child was identified as Landon Brooks through medical records and confirmation by family members. Following identification, Birmingham police notified the victim's next of kin and released a preliminary statement to the press. The statement classified the event as a triple homicide and confirmed that the case was being handled by the department's homicide division. No suspects were named publicly at that time. However, investigators were already analyzing digital data from the victims' phones and the nearby surveillance footage. Within days, That information would lead to the identification of a possible suspect known as Jaco McGregor, marking the beginning of a months-long manhunt that followed. At the crime scene, officers from the Birmingham Police Department's crime scene unit recovered approximately 20 to 30 shell casings scattered near the vehicle. These casings were systematically photographed, numbered, and collected for forensic analysis. Each casing was examined for distinctive markings, including firing pin impressions, breech face marks, and extractor marks that could link them to a specific firearm. Ballistics experts at the department's forensic laboratory conducted microscopic comparisons between the recovered casings and known firearm samples in the state's ballistic database. The analysis revealed that all casings were fired from a single weapon, identified as a semi-automatic handgun chambered in 9mm. Although the firearm itself had not been recovered, the consistency across the casings confirmed that only one gun was used in the attack. The report concluded that the rounds were fired from outside the vehicle, directed primarily toward the driver's side and front passenger window. Trajectory analysis showed that the shooter stood at an angle near the front left portion of the vehicle. Glass fragmentation patterns supported this conclusion, indicating that the driver's side window was the first point of penetration. Ballistics reports were submitted to the Birmingham Police Department as part of the official investigative documentation. The shell casing pattern, combined with the bullet entry points, suggested a concentrated attack rather than random gunfire. Autopsies were performed by the Jefferson County Coroner's Office. The preliminary findings determined that the cause of death for all three victims was multiple gunshot wounds. The autopsy of Arkia Berry revealed that she sustained 3 gunshot wounds to the upper torso, one of which was fatal, striking the left side of the chest and penetrating vital organs. Trajectory analysis of her wounds indicated that she was shot first while seated in the driver's position. The angle of entry aligned with the ballistic findings from the scene. Her boyfriend, Eric Ashley Jr., suffered 2 gunshot wounds, one to the neck and another to the upper chest, both consistent with shots fired from the driver's side of the vehicle. The pattern of his injuries suggested he was struck moments after Arkia, 5-year-old Landon Brooks, seated in the rear passenger seat, sustained a single gunshot wound to the upper body. The projectile path confirmed that the shot originated from the same external direction as the others. No defensive wounds were identified on any of the victims. The absence of such injuries indicated that none of them had an opportunity to react or shield themselves, implying that the attack was sudden and unexpected. Toxicology reports found no presence of drugs or alcohol in the victims, ruling out impairment or external contribution to the incident. The final autopsy documentation reinforced the working theory that the victims were ambushed while inside the vehicle. In addition to ballistic materials, investigators conducted a comprehensive recovery of physical and digital evidence from the scene. Cell phones belonging to both Arkia Berry and Eric Ashley were retrieved from inside the vehicle. Landon's child seat remained intact in the rear, confirming he was properly restrained at the time of the shooting. The victim's devices were sent to the Birmingham Police Department's Digital Forensics Unit for data extraction. Analysts retrieved text messages, call logs, and location data. GPS coordinates from the phones placed the vehicle in the same location as the shooting site at the time of the attack. Nearby businesses and residential properties were canvassed for security footage. One surveillance camera captured a dark-colored vehicle resembling a green Kia driving past the area approximately 2 minutes before gunfire was reported. The same vehicle was seen leaving the vicinity at high speed immediately after the incident. Investigators cataloged this footage as potential visual evidence. A burned-out green Kia was located the following day in a remote area of Birmingham. The vehicle's registration was partially melted, but investigators recovered fragments of a license plate, which were later matched to a vehicle known to be associated with an individual connected to the suspect. During canvassing, detectives interviewed residents living near the scene. Several witnesses reported hearing a rapid succession of gunfire, followed by the sound of cars speeding away. One witness specifically recalled seeing a green Kia with tinted windows leaving the area immediately after the shots were fired. The accounts were consistent with the video evidence already collected. No witnesses were able to provide a description of the shooter, as the attack occurred quickly and during low visibility hours. Despite the lack of direct identification, the consistency in reports regarding the green Kia became a critical lead for investigators. During digital forensic analysis of Arkia Berry's phone, investigators discovered a final text message sent moments before her death. The message contained a single word, Jaco. The timestamp of the message aligned with the estimated time of the shooting, suggesting it was sent seconds before the phone's signal was lost. The name Jaco immediately drew attention from detectives. Database searches identified a known individual, Jaco McGregor, whose nickname matched the name in the message. McGregor was already known to law enforcement for prior offenses, including weapons possession and assault-related charges. The discovery of this text message shifted the investigation's focus from an unknown shooter to a specific person of interest. Detectives cross-checked McGregor's known addresses, associates, and communication records. Analysis of cell tower data placed McGregor's phone in proximity to the crime scene during the time of the murders. His call history indicated brief communication with Arkia's number earlier that same day. Background checks revealed that McGregor had been acquainted with Arkia through mutual contacts in Birmingham. The nature of their relationship was not officially disclosed, but messages between the two showed ongoing communication weeks prior to the incident. Investigators also reviewed McGregor's prior record, noting a previous involvement in a domestic dispute and possession of an unregistered firearm matching the caliber used in the shooting. Further forensic analysis extracted deleted messages and call logs from Arkia's device. These records showed that she had received multiple calls from a number registered to McGregor in the 24 hours before her death. One of the messages included a planned meeting location near the area of the shooting. Investigators then examined McGregor's social media accounts, which displayed activity until shortly after the time of the murders. After that point, all online presence ceased. Posts and direct messages retrieved from his accounts indicated tension between McGregor and Arkia prior to the event. Cell phone triangulation, combined with witness accounts and vehicle footage, placed McGregor's phone in motion within minutes of shooting, heading away from the scene toward the interstate. The following day, Birmingham police received a call reporting a vehicle fire in a remote area several miles from the original scene. Firefighters extinguished the blaze and discovered that the car was completely destroyed by flames. Despite the extensive damage, investigators identified it as the same model and color of the green Kia seen in surveillance footage. The timing and location raised immediate suspicion that the burning of the vehicle was an attempt to destroy evidence connected to the homicide. Forensic technicians processed the burned vehicle on-site before transporting it to a secure facility. Amid the wreckage, investigators located partial vehicle identification numbers, VIN, etched into undamaged sections of the chassis. They also recovered fragments of a melted license plate that contained partial numeric characters. Using forensic reconstruction methods, the team cross-referenced the VIN sequence with vehicle registration databases. This process led to an individual known to have close associations with Jaco McGregor, the person named in Arkia Berry's final text message before her death. The connection strengthened the growing suspicion that McGregor was directly involved or had access to the vehicle used during the shooting. The forensic recovery process also revealed traces of accelerant within the car's interior, confirming deliberate arson. Investigators concluded that the vehicle was intentionally destroyed shortly after the killings to eliminate ballistic residue, fingerprints, and DNA evidence. Despite the destruction, several fragments of the car's internal structure remain intact, allowing specialists to determine it had been recently cleaned or wiped down, suggesting premeditation. This discovery marked a turning point in the case, providing a tangible link between the suspect and the scene. In the days following the murders, McGregor's whereabouts became uncertain. Witnesses reported that he abruptly left Birmingham, cutting off contact with several known associates. Detectives reviewing his cell phone data observed that his device stopped transmitting from local towers within 24 hours of the incident. Shortly thereafter, all digital communication ceased. No new calls, text messages, or social media activity were recorded. The sudden disconnection was interpreted as an intentional effort to evade tracking. Investigators learned that McGregor might have used multiple aliases to conceal his movements while traveling across state lines. Reports indicated possible sightings in Georgia, Mississippi, and northern Florida, though none were confirmed at the time. The investigation determined that McGregor had previously used alternative names for temporary employment and rental applications, providing him with an established method for concealment. His known contacts and family members were interviewed, but none provided verifiable information on his location. Several associates denied knowledge of his actions or insisted they had not seen him since the week of the murders. Financial analysis revealed additional evidence of planned evasion. McGregor's bank account showed no withdrawals after July 2024, but cash activity before the killing suggested he had withdrawn funds in preparation. He also sold a vehicle weeks prior to the homicide, a transaction investigators later interpreted as an attempt to liquidate assets before fleeing. The combination of communication cutoff, financial withdrawal, and disappearance from local areas confirmed that McGregor had intentionally left Birmingham with the purpose of avoiding capture. As the investigation expanded beyond Alabama, Birmingham police sought federal assistance. In coordination with the U.S. Marshals Service, a capital murder warrant was issued for Jaco and McGregor. The severity of the charges, 3 counts of capital murder, including the death of a child, classified him as a fugitive of high priority. Multi-state coordination began immediately, involving agencies across Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi. The Marshals Service established a task force dedicated to tracking McGregor's movements using interagency intelligence, vehicle registration checks, and interstate communication monitoring. Federal authorities distributed McGregor's image, known aliases, and description to law enforcement networks and public databases. His information was entered into the National Crime Information Center, NCIC, ensuring that any law enforcement officer nationwide could identify and detain him if encountered. The collaboration between local detectives and federal agents focused on locating safe houses, family residences, and potential associates in neighboring states. Investigators also analyzed McGregor's online history for any traceable patterns. Although he had stopped direct communication, digital forensics identified prior online searches related to vehicle sales and temporary housing, reinforcing the belief that he had prepared an escape strategy. Authorities maintained that the combination of evidence, Arkia's final text naming him, the connection to the green Kia, and his immediate disappearance, provided sufficient grounds for his arrest on the capital murder charges. Throughout the latter half of 2024, law enforcement intensified their search. Surveillance operations were established across Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi, monitoring key routes, transportation hubs, and rural hideouts. Anonymous tips began reaching police hotlines, several of which claimed sightings of a man matching McGregor's description in small towns across Georgia. Each lead was verified and followed by local agencies, though most yielded inconclusive results. The U.S. Marshals offered a monetary reward for information leading to his capture, encouraging the public to assist in locating the fugitive. Detectives conducted coordinated sweeps of known addresses tied to McGregor's relatives, ex-partners, and former associates. While some tips proved false, several provided indirect confirmation of his movement eastward into Georgia. Surveillance teams expanded coverage to rest stops, rental properties, and low-cost motels along the Interstate 20 corridor. Investigators also checked pawn shops, gas stations, and public transportation terminals for any sign of identification usage or recent activity under his known aliases. McGregor successfully evaded capture for approximately 7 months. During this time, investigators tracked potential financial or digital footprints but found minimal activity. His ability to avoid detection suggested assistance from individuals aware of his fugitive status. Agents continued monitoring his social and geographic network, reviewing credit reports and checking for identity misuse. Despite limited evidence of his physical location, law enforcement maintained that his presence remained within the southeastern United States based on sporadic information and informant tips. Throughout this period, case updates were released to the media to sustain public awareness. The family of Arkia Berry publicly appealed for cooperation from anyone with knowledge of McGregor's location. Each update reinforced the ongoing pursuit and the unresolved nature of the case. In February 2025, the manhunt concluded when McGregor was located in Georgia. Federal agents and local police, acting on intelligence gathered through monitored communication between one of his associates and an intermediary contact, identified a residence where he was believed to be hiding. A surveillance team confirmed his presence, and tactical units executed a controlled arrest without incident. McGregor was taken into custody and transported to a secure holding facility for processing. Following his arrest, McGregor was extradited to Alabama, where he faced 3 counts of capital murder related to the deaths of Arkia Berry, her son Landon Brooks, and Eric Ashley Jr. The arrest marked the end of a multi-state pursuit that had spanned over half a year. With his detention, authorities announced that the investigation phase had transitioned into prosecution, setting the stage for pretrial proceedings in Jefferson County. Law enforcement officials confirmed that evidence collected, including digital records, the burned vehicle link, and cell tower data, would form the foundation of the case against him. The charges were formally read in early 2025 after McGregor's arrest in Georgia. He was extradited back to Alabama under federal coordination with the U.S. Marshal Service. Court records show that the charges were supported by forensic findings, digital communications, and witness statements gathered between July 2024 and February 2025. The district attorney's office confirmed that prosecutors would pursue the case as a triple homicide with aggravating circumstances, reflecting both the number of victims and the involvement of a minor. Upon his arrival in Jefferson County, McGregor appeared before a judge for his initial court hearing. Dressed in standard detention attire, he was informed of the charges and potential penalties. When asked for his plea, McGregor entered a plea of not guilty to all counts. His defense team filed an immediate notice contesting key pieces of the state's evidence, most notably the text message sent by Arkia Berry shortly before her death. The defense argued that the single word Jaco, allegedly referring to McGregor, could not be used as conclusive identification of the shooter. They claimed it lacked sufficient context to establish certainty and could represent multiple interpretations or individuals. The court denied the defense's request for bail. Prosecutors presented evidence that McGregor had fled Alabama after the murders and was located several states away when captured. The judge ruled that the combination of flight behavior, potential risk to the public, and the gravity of the charges justified his continued detention without bond. The decision was filed as part of the public record under the capital case docket. During the pretrial phase, the prosecution submitted an extensive evidence summary outlining the case's foundation. At its core was a final text message sent from Arkia Berry's phone minutes before her death. The message contained a single name, Jaco. Investigators testified that McGregor was known by that nickname within his social circle. The timestamp of the text aligned closely with the time police estimated the shooting occurred, based on ballistic analysis and witness statements. The prosecution also presented cell phone location data, placing McGregor's device in proximity to the victims at the time of the crime. Cellular tower pings reportedly showed that his phone traveled along the same route as Arkia's vehicle before abruptly going inactive following the shooting. Investigators cross-referenced this data with surveillance footage recovered from cameras near the crime scene. A green Kia sedan, seen driving away immediately after the gunfire, became a central piece of evidence. Days later, a vehicle of that make and color was discovered burned and abandoned. Forensic specialists recovered partial VIN information linking it to an associate connected to McGregor. Prosecutors argued that the sequence, from the vehicle's sighting to its destruction, indicated an attempt to conceal involvement. Further forensic testing uncovered gunshot residue traces consistent with materials found in locations tied to McGregor. While no weapon was recovered, residue samples from his prior residence matched elements consistent with the bullet casings collected at the scene. The state positioned this as physical corroboration of digital and circumstantial data. Collectively, prosecutors contended that the combination of the victim's final message, location tracking, vehicle evidence, and forensic analysis established a clear and direct link between McGregor and the triple homicide. The defense countered by targeting each of these points as circumstantial and inconclusive. Attorneys representing McGregor stated that the prosecution's reliance on a text message was unreliable, arguing that a single name does not constitute legal proof of identification. They emphasized that no direct eyewitnesses placed McGregor at the scene and that the state had not produced a firearm definitively connected to him. Defense filings questioned the integrity of the cell tower data, noting that such technology provided approximate locations rather than exact coordinates. They argued that being in the general vicinity does not prove involvement. Regarding the surveillance footage, they asserted that the video quality was insufficient to confirm who was driving the green Kia or whether McGregor was present. The defense also disputed the timeline constructed by investigators, citing potential inconsistencies between text timestamps, phone activity, and witness reports. They requested additional forensic testing and expert reviews of the digital data to assess its reliability. Their motion claimed that the evidence chain was incomplete and that law enforcement conclusions were built on inference rather than factual observation. The defense's overall position framed the case as entirely circumstantial, contending that prosecutors lacked direct physical proof connecting McGregor to the shootings. The arrest and court proceedings drew widespread attention across Birmingham and surrounding areas. Family members of Arkia Berry publicly described her as protective, devoted, and caring, emphasizing her close bond with her son. During interviews and statements outside the courthouse, they reiterated their determination to see justice carried out for both Arkia and Landon, as well as for Eric Ashley Jr., who was remembered as a supportive presence in their lives. Multiple vigils were organized at the site where the shooting occurred. Attendees included relatives, friends, and local residents. Candles, photographs, and memorial items were displayed as family members called for accountability and safety within the community. Local pastors and community leaders used the gatherings to highlight the broader issue of gun violence in Birmingham, referencing the Berry case as one of several high-profile homicides in recent years. Residents across Birmingham expressed concern about the increasing number of violent crimes involving families and children. In response, Birmingham Police Department officials held a public briefing emphasizing ongoing efforts to combat violent crime. They reaffirmed their commitment to resolving family-related homicides and maintaining transparency throughout the judicial process. City officials acknowledged public frustration with case backlogs, but credited investigators for following through with digital and forensic methods that led to McGregor's capture. The department reported that collaboration between local and federal agencies had been essential in closing gaps that allowed suspects to cross state lines. The case attracted national media coverage, largely due to the distinctive element of the final text message sent by the victim. Outlets such as People magazine and WTM 13 documented how that single message became the pivotal lead that guided investigators toward the suspect. The story circulated widely on social media, generating significant discussion about digital evidence and its growing role in homicide investigations. Broadcast networks highlighted the methodical nature of the investigation, the digital trail, the burned vehicle, and the cross-state arrest, framing it as an example of modern forensic integration. Commentators noted how a brief message from a dying victim could alter the course of an investigation, prompting renewed discussions on emergency digital response systems. Throughout 2025, updates on pretrial motions and forensic developments continue to surface in news outlets and public court records. Legal analysts follow the proceedings closely, monitoring how the defense's challenges might influence the admissibility of text evidence in future cases. If this story gripped your heart and left you questioning the truth, don't forget to hit that like button and share with others who need to hear it. For more chilling true crime stories that dive deep into the mysteries behind these tragedies, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest updates, investigations, and thought-provoking discussions. Thank you for being part of this journey with us as we uncover the truth and seek justice. Together, we can make a difference. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next one.